Good morning, good evening or good afternoon folks. Before I say any more, don't forget to do the usual, like and subscribe. Where am I? Redditch town. I'm not going up to Pop World, that's closed. So I'm heading to the museum, that's closed at the moment, but Redditch, they do a ghost walk, and the chap Clem, I've got his surname now, asked me if I want to go do a blog on it. I said okay. So they're doing one every night this week. What's the date today? 20th of October, it's a Monday. It's not raining, so I got my umbrella just in case. So I'm just heading up to the town now. 7 o'clock kick-off is it's about 5 to now. So 2 hours. I don't think they're walking for 2 hours, probably a lot of talking. I'm not going to film the whole ghost walk because the idea is just give you an idea what it's like. So I'm not sure how many people are coming. I'm using the DJI Pocket 3 because it's pretty good in low light. I've got a low light mode, it's not in that yet, but anyway, there's a lorry there emptying all the tack out of the NatWest Bank, so it's a shame that's closed. It's not very often I come up to town at night, bit of a one-off. Anyway, we'll catch you in a bit. Yeah, so just outside the museum, there's a few people inside. He says that it isn't a very long walk. Walk round by the Kingfisher, they walk round the town and end up back down at the palace. So it's just stopping for talking. So we'll catch you in a bit. Yeah, so there's a local history museum. It has been closed due to water leak. It's free entry till Christmas. I'm not sure when it's opening back up. If I know anything while I'm doing this walk, I'll update you. Yeah, sign of the times. Cancer research here in Redditch is closing 14th of November. So it's another empty shop in Redditch.
Right, so first of all, my name's Clem. I've been collecting ghost stories since I was a little kid. My grandparents, my mum used to tell me all these stories, all about the old Redditch. And I've collected them since. And I've probably collected about 140 so far. And it was during the 1990s, I decided to build a website and start listing some of the stories. It doesn't go into great detail, but I do list like all the haunted locations around Redditch. Probably needs updated, I don't think I've touched it for the last 2 years. Since then, it was during COVID, I decided I was a bit bored, so I thought I'd start a podcast. So it's called Ghost Tales by the Fireside, over a YouTube channel. And I basically tell ghost stories from all over the country, all over the UK. A lot of them I've visited, places I've been to. I've collected all the stories, and I'll talk a lot about the history of places as well that relate to the ghost stories. Well, so our first ghost story is actually the museum itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been talking to the ghost.
Well, his name's Mr. Go-to-Bed. Honestly, he was a shopkeeper there. Mr. Go-to-Bed. Yeah, we had a ghost in here, didn't we?
Yeah.
That was good, that was. Alright then.
Well, so you're welcome. Well, so, when the museum first opened up, it's been here for just under 5 years. They were having a meeting upstairs. Now the very top floor is actually a flat. Hence why we've just had this little shut. So, if you go into the first floor of the building, where the meeting was taking place, in the kitchen area, there's a staircase which leads up to the old flat, the old room on top. But you can't get up there anymore, it's blocked off, they put a ceiling across it so you can't get it. One of them has gone into that area to make a cup of tea to the kitchen. They just happened to look round there. They saw somebody pop their head over the staircase. Just looking around. Of course, nobody can get through there. And in that one particular area, everybody said they sometimes feel a bit nauseous and feel like they get a headache. So anyway, when people have been working in the archives, it's usually when the museum's shut, they'll hear people walking across the shop floor, which is down there. So a few months ago, they decided to get a ghost investigation team in to take a look at the place, and I was invited along. It was really good. Often had someone in the past, but yeah, we started off. They were just walking around, and I'd set up different cameras in different areas, and I put one upstairs. I thought I'd better go and check, make sure I've turned it all on. Gone upstairs, and I'm on my own there. I could smell cigarette smoke. Really strong. Oh, yeah, that's a bit weird. So I thought I'll get back downstairs and tell the rest of these people. I said, if you go upstairs, just tell me what you think. I didn't tell them anything about the smell. So they all went up there, and that's what they all said. So I said, well, it smells really strong. Apparently that's a reoccurring thing. You can smell it quite often. So they went into that back room where the staircase is. Now, nobody saw anything on the staircase. In fact, nobody saw anything really. There were a few like bangs and creaks throughout the evening. But when they went near the staircase, and there's one bit, every single person said they felt nauseous. One woman had to go downstairs to sit down. She said her headache was that bad all of a sudden. And after 10 minutes of sitting down, she was fine. And I thought, I want to try this. So I'd heard about it, so I thought I'd better go and have a look and go stand there myself. And I stood there and I feel absolutely fine. Nothing. And also, I just got this headache. Nothing for days. Really weird. No idea what caused it. So then we're down in the archives, and they asked me to get involved in this experiment with table tipping. Now, I've never done this before. But they've got a table, and you all put your finger on it, and they start asking questions. Is there anybody there? Or sort of, somehow they said they'd contacted a girl. Not sure how they done this, but and this table starts to tap from underneath. Well, I thought somebody had a contraption or something. So no. Then I'm looking at everybody's fingers to see if they're pushing. Your fingers are going to go a bit white to see if anybody's pushing this table because it started to move. And nobody was. It started to move quite a lot. Two of them have took their fingers off, and there's just two of us left on this table. And I'm definitely not moving it. And my fingers slipping off, and all sorts of ways to move it. So quick. The woman who I'm stood there doing it, she's took her finger off, and it's just me, and it's still going. I've let go, and it's still going. And I said hit my leg, and it started to hit my leg. And I told it to stop, and it stopped. And all of a sudden it sort of turned around and just collapsed onto the floor. I've never seen anything like that in my life ever. Just couldn't believe it. And I actually caught it on film, but the camera was too far away to see any details, so you can't see if anybody's touching it or anything. So I was quite disappointed. But I didn't realise that the history of the building has been researched. The oldest record of this place was from 1849. And it was a house originally. And then it became a bakery, became a shoemaker's. It ended up being Freeman Hardingless. I remember that as a kid. It being a sports shop. But apparently sometimes you smell the smell of leather in there. I smell like leather. Which is, it's now a Cornish cafe, I think it's called. Right near Powerland. It's next door to where Thornton's used to be. And they started experiencing some really weird things. They'd open the door in the morning and they would find leaflets and they'd be laid out all over the floor, like fanned out in patterns. And then they noticed that some of the pottery weren't where it should have been, it was moved around. And then pottery started flying off shelves. Like it wasn't just falling, it would be like travelling across the other side of the room, but it wouldn't smash. And then the final straw one day was one of the shelves. It was like it had been ripped out of the wall. The screws came out, everything. The pottery had got everywhere. And again, it didn't smash. So they decided to call it a medium. The medium came out and she said, well, they conducted a seance. And there was a girl there who had, she said she channeled the spirit of a 17-year-old girl. She said her name was Elizabeth. And that she'd had a baby, and the baby was taken off her and then it died. The baby was buried, and then 2 weeks later she died. So the following Saturday, she asked her boss at the shop if she could go to the church. So she went to the church, she put some flowers on the altar, said a prayer, and she said as she walked up the aisle, there was a girl stood there, and she said she looked normal, like a normal person. She said she had like a skirt on and a shawl, and she looks very, very ragged. But she said she had like a misty glow around her. She looked over towards her, smiled, and then just disappeared. But nothing ever happened in the shop ever again. That was it.
Right, just going into the Kingfisher now. What I've done is I've put my mic onto Clem, so you'll hear me talking, but he's doing the talking, so it'll be a bit clearer. So, like I say, I'm not going to do everything because I want you to come along. So we're heading just outside the Kingfisher. This is the only bit of the Evesham Street which is left. Used to be able to drive down here years ago. My first memory is coming on the coach from Hasselbank to the swimming baths when I was a kid, when I was about 10. Gilbert Green was the coach driver. So anyway, we'll catch you in a bit.
Cash generators here, and if you look at this building here, you can see it ends. There wasn't another building joined onto it years ago. So down there was a road. It was called New Street, and it would run straight down there, and it would join. It'd go down to the back of what was the Royal Hotel, which is now Pop World, and then it would turn right onto Walford Street. Now, down New Street there was a shop in 1831, and it was Heafy's. That's where it originally started. And the reason I mention that is because it's related to the next story, which I'll tell you when we go around now. So if we go down to what was W.H. Smith's, can't remember what it's called now. You'll find that most of the ghost stories I'll tell you are from the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And I think it's from when the shopping centre was first finished. That's when people started to experience a lot of these things. So it was around 1989, and there was a woman working in here, and she had to go, she was stocking up the shelves, and she went into the storeroom. And she went in there, she said that she could smell pipe tobacco. And she didn't really think much of it at the time because people used to smoke in the shopping centre. So it's about an hour or so later, she had to go back in there, and she could smell it again. But this time, she looked over towards the desk, and there was a man sat there actually smoking a pipe. And he looked over to her, nodded his head, and smiled. Well, she described him as wearing a brown hat, a brown suit with a brown waistcoat, and a pocket watch, and he had a grey beard. So she decided not to tell anybody and just carried on working. And it was only a few weeks later, somebody went in there on a Saturday afternoon, and they smelt it straight away, and then actually saw this man. So of course she's gone running out of the storeroom, absolutely terrified. Somebody who shouldn't have been there, he was out of, from a different time. The woman who had experienced it beforehand, she said to her, that's our ghost. Of course she didn't come back to work after that. So it was only last year I was doing the ghost walk, and somebody on the walk said to me, did you know Heafy's started at the very back where the storeroom would have been, on New Street, what would have been New Street? Oh, I didn't know. Well, Heafy's has moved around into different locations over the years. I mean, they started in 1831. They said when they were on Church Green West years ago, there used to be a photo in there of the original owner of Ephes as he'd become an old man. And his description was wearing this suit with a grey beard and a pipe in his hand. But apparently he's been seen in Pop World, which was the Royal Hotel, very out of place. And years ago, I think it's where Boots is, around there, there was a pub there called the Talbot Inn. And he was seen there in the 1950s. People used to see this man with the exact same description. I found that in one of Anne Bradford's books. Quite interesting to read. Right, so the next story we've got is just up around the corner.
Right, just going on to the next story, so I'm not going to do all of them, but we'll follow everyone around. It's interesting tonight. So they have about 15 people maximum. So yeah, so I've got a spare mic. I could connect the two up, but it's a bit of fiddling around, so I will use my camera audio for my talking. And he's got the mic. That's if he's talking now, it's on a different channel. So anyway, we'll keep on walking down. This is the most I've seen in the Kingfisher for a while. And that's the funnel up there. So we'll see a bit further along, folks, from the Kingfisher Centre.
The story I've been given here is quite a recent one. And it was in the shop. They've just had a few objects move around. And people have seen a person in there, but they can't make out any features. They just know there's something in there. Now the weird thing is about this part of the town is over the years people have seen people walking along here and then they just vanish. I haven't had anybody tell me they're in Victorian clothing or anything like that. They've just said people have walked along it and they've just disappeared out of view. Where next is there? When it used to be Marks and Spencer years ago, I used to work in there. And lots of the staff used to say the same sort of thing. You'd have somebody walking through the shop and they'd just vanish. British Home Stores, which used to be over there, which is now the Range, upstairs, they used to experience a little girl in a red dress running around. And a lot of the staff were absolutely terrified to go up there on their own. But yeah, so just in this area alone, there's been quite a lot of activity. But this used to be a road. This would have been Walford Street. And it would have been one of the poorest parts of the town. And it had the 2 up, 2 down houses along here. Now, I was talking to the archivist at the library just last week, and she's been reading some records on the cholera epidemic. It was around the 1840s, it happened in Redditch. And of course, being such a poor part of the town, they used to get their water just down by the Palace Theatre. There was a great big pool, and everything went into the pool. Human waste, animals, anything just went in there. And of course, they're pumping the water next to it. So yeah, some really bad experiences for people. But there's one of the stories that I was told during the cholera epidemic, which was just really horrible. There was a couple who'd had a baby and they'd gone to work, but the baby's really ill with cholera. They left the baby in the house for the doctor to come and see. And as the doctor went round there, all their wet washing is hung above the baby, and it's all just dripping over the poor kid. And yeah, and that would have been a normal thing, because people, if they didn't work, they didn't eat. Yeah, so pretty good. It'd be interesting to see all that published. I'd love to have a read through that stuff myself. Right, so the next...
Right, it's my favourite picture in the Kingfisher there. Anyone knows me, I like the blue bows. So we're just going to carry on up now for the next story. Everyone's enjoying the walk round. So if you don't hear the full story, it's because I want you to come along and experience it yourself.
Of course, they're completely baffled as to why there's footsteps there. They'd left it the night before clean. There's no more footsteps until they walk down to the counter, and there were white footsteps around by the counter as well. But there's none going from the mat to the counter. Really strange. I came in to see them a few weeks ago, and she'd actually photographed all the footprints, and she said it happens quite often. It's quite annoying because she has to get the vacuum out before opening. She said she's had things flying around off shelves, all sorts of things in this place. She had a shop 2 doors up before she was here, and similar sort of things used to happen in there. The counter runs along the shop. She used to sit at one side, and she'd have a dustbin at the other side. She said some mornings she would come into work, and the dustbin had been emptied all over the place.
Right, so we're heading outside Primark, which this is where the old Evesham Street used to go through. Probably the Hungry Man was somewhere around here. I think it could have been around this area. Or, well, I used to work at Johnson Brothers, and that was Johnson Brothers was that way. So he's going to do a few stories here, but I'm only going to tell you the one because I want you to come on the walk yourself. It's quite interesting. Everyone's enjoying it. TK Maxx up there.
Happen here. Now, during the 80s, up there was a staircase, a set of steps you could get up there, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and 2 security guards, they were doing their rounds. They looked up and there was a bloke hanging around up there, so they've called up to him, and he's just completely ignoring them. Now, they're not allowed to approach anybody, so they've had to phone the police. The police have come out. The police went up the stairs, and as they started talking to the bloke, he decided to walk off. Now, where Sports Direct is up there, that used to be an MEB shop, and he's walked over towards the shop and straight through the door. Now, because the police came out, there's a police report on this, and I've never seen it myself. His description is he's a tall, slim man wearing top hat and tails. Now, where you've got TK Maxx there, just in that one part of the shop, it used to be Graveners years ago, where you'd buy your school uniforms and your PE kits and things, sports wear. And he was also seen walking around there. This man has been seen a lot. He's always around this balcony area. I've no idea what would have been here. I mean, this was a road going straight through here, so I've no idea where he's come from. But his last sighting was in August of last year, and there was a cleaner up there on the balcony. As they're walking along, they said this man just came from behind the pillar, and walked straight across, got up to that pillar there, and never came out the other side. And I asked him what he looked like. He said he was really tall, wearing a top hat and tails. I'm like, well, he had no idea of the story. Now, on the basement floor, they used to experience children running around, giggling. Sometimes it'd be just out the corner of their eye. And they also had these glass cabinets that you used to be able to lock up. It had all the really expensive Royal Doulton ornaments in there. And quite often they'd go into work in the morning to find it unlocked, and the ornaments were laid out on the floor. But the thing with the children is really weird, because I've had people who have worked in the works in Shoe Zone all the way down to Jack and Jones, a few more units down there. They've all said the same thing in their basement cellars about children. They could hear them giggling, they have doors opening and closing. So it took me a while to think about it. I thought, why would there be children down there? And then I suddenly realised the floor's a different level to what it originally was. The road was lower, because all of this is built on a big platform to make it level. And then I found out just recently, where we saw the shop Heath's earlier, with the man with the beard and the pipe, his daughter just at the back over here had a school. So I'm wondering if that's some relation to...
Yeah, he's done a few stories just here. He did mention that used to be Owen and Owen on the left. So I'm not videoing every story, just to give you a few highlights. So if you want to come along and experience it, everyone's enjoying themselves anyway. So, we'll see what's going on over here. So I'm not going to film everything.
Floor above what's happened here, and it was my friend's dad, Malcolm, and he was a security guard. He's walking along there one night, about to do his rounds, opens up the lift, starts walking in, realises there's somebody behind him in the reflection. He got into the lift, turned around, and he said there was this monk. He said he was really tall, and he walked into the lift with him. He said he was absolutely terrified. He's pressed the button, of course the door's not shutting any quicker, but it's too quick for him to get out, and he didn't want to go past the monk. So he said he's gone round the monk so he could get by the door. He said as the lift has gone down, the monk stayed on the same level. He said but as he was going down, he looked up and he could see the bottom of his feet. And anyway, he's come out of here and he's just run.
Right, yeah, he's done a few stories just here, but I've only just done the one. We told some good ones actually. Yeah, you'll enjoy them if you come on the walk. But, yeah, so it is a bit busy in the Kingfisher tonight. People will say, well, there's more in than the daytime. But you've got the entertainer there, Mankind, Card Factory, just there. And we were heading to the toilets there for a story. Yes, so enjoyed the walk round. So, yeah, it's all changing. There used to be a few different cafes just here on the left. Anyway, we'll join you back for the story.
Right, so in this area there was once a church, the Congregational Church, and it was built by the needlemakers. It was a Methodist church. And there were graves here. Yeah, they have been removed. In fact, I'll put the photo on my phone of the church. Somewhere.
Yeah, wow.
On there.
Blimey. Big.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so that's it, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was here. That was the church. So it was during the early 70s when the centre was being built. They demolished the church and the graves were exhumed and they were reburied at the Abbey Cemetery by the Abbey Stadium. So there are rumours that some graves were left down there. I have no idea. Really have no idea. I'd love to get down there myself and have a look. But I know you've got service hatches over here. All the way along through the centre, you've got these service hatches. And it's actually like a big tunnel you can walk, like an underground road, basically, underneath. Apparently, I haven't been there, but I'm guessing that's what it would be like. But there was a cleaner one night, walking along, and one of these service hatches were up, and they've got these plastic barriers around. And he said there was somebody down there, and he was picking things up and putting them on the walkway. And he's asked him what he was doing and what they were. And he said they were urns. And he said there was a rack of them that he had to move. That was only the last 10 years. So I don't know, I haven't been down there, but I'd love to have a look. So a lot of people have had a lot of ghost experiences around this area. Whether it's to do with the church and the graves, I don't know. But that unit there, years ago, was radio rentals. And they used to have TVs coming on, turning off. TVs, the channels would change. There's a bloke I spoke to, Peppa Pig's really driving me mad. A bloke I spoke to said he remembers one TV. It was one of those ones with a big knob and you had to change channel for turning that. He remembered seeing that turning around. And he said he was going around the shop and everything was just, he saw it. And they all described him as a monk wearing his brown habit. About 15 years ago, in the mother-baby changing area, there was a woman in there, changed the baby, got everything sorted. She said she all of a sudden had this horrible feeling of dread. And she said she panicked. She said she turned around to open the door, she couldn't unlock it. She finally unlocked it, and as she opened the door, she said this face came through the door and then went back. And she described him as, it was a man, she said, in a brown hood. And then back in June, somebody contacted me, telling me pretty much the same thing. They took the baby in there, it was a Sunday afternoon, took the baby in there, they got sorted, and they got this feeling of dread. They said they looked in the mirror and they just saw a person walk past, and then they just disappeared. And all she said was that he either had brown hair or brown hat. But I'm thinking, yes.
Yeah, so he's done a few stories there, but I've only filmed a short bit. I'll only make a 30-minute video. So it's been great. Everyone's enjoying the story. Naming some of the places, shops that have gone that you forgot about. You mentioned Rediffusion, obviously Woolworths was along here. Well, it used to be next to the museum, and then they had it here. So yeah, everyone's enjoying it. I say it's not a lot of walking. So anyway, back to another story.
Yeah, yeah. I thought the same. And I was telling everybody this shop when I was doing the story. But yeah, I found out the other week it was this one. But it was because I know somebody who worked there. It was during the 90s when I was doing my window cleaning up there. And because you used to meet other people who were working in the town. And there was a mother and son, and they used to come in here to do their cleaning job in the morning. And the son would clean upstairs and the mum would clean downstairs. So they've gone downstairs to collect all the cleaning equipment out of the cupboard. Now, the lad's just gone straight upstairs with his polish and his vacuum, done his job. Went back down into the cellar and couldn't see his mum, but he could hear a muffled voice. He thought, what's going on? So the key's in the cleaning cupboard door, so he's opened the door up, and his mum's in the cupboard. She said it felt like she'd been pushed in, and the door slammed behind her, and the door locked, because it was locked from the outside. So he's made her a cup of tea and done her job for her. Just as they were about to leave, they said all of a sudden this man just appeared and walked between them, and then just vanished. And they described him as being tall with a top hat and tails. But I don't know what the floor level would have been here if it was different to down there. I'm sure it used to go down a hill, a little bit of a hill. Not quite sure.
Yeah, so he's got quite a few stories in the town, but what we're going to do, instead of walking through the town, he's going to tell the stories over my boots, but I'm only going to probably do one of the stories. So come along and experience the full. He's got quite a few stories, so it might not be the same ones every time. Yeah, I hope you're enjoying the 1, 2. Oh, it's not my bike, it's the umbrella. Yeah, I hope you're enjoying it. I'll swing you around. So these go past here. We've got the television shop here. We've got a Dalek outside. They used to scare me.
Roads aren't in the exact places as we see them today. They are slightly off. But where it goes round to the left, when you get to Poundland, that's what the road would have done, went off to the left. And that's where that first story I told you about, the pottery shop, is just down there. So at the very far end of the town, where you've got McDonald's, just opposite there is an empty unit, which was Wilkinson's. And years ago, it was a pub. It was the Swinging Sporran, and then it became the Limelight. When it was the Swinging Sporran, there was a ghost story. They used to say that a man used to walk in, he'd go and sit at the bar, and when somebody would go to serve him, he'd just vanish. He was also accused of knocking a few pints over here and there. Now when it was the Limelight, that's more my time, and I used to go there myself, and a lot of the staff used to say they'd see a little boy running around. And he was quite cheeky, because to all the lady staff, he'd go in and pinch their bums. They said they'd hear giggling as well. So just outside there, years ago, there was a set of doors where they used to lock the town up over night time. And there was a cleaner one day, and he was walking towards the door with one of these scrubber dryer machines. As he's going towards the door, he's noticed through the glass there's a man stood the other side. There's somebody moving about. And he thought perhaps it's just somebody who's had a few too many and come up from the bus station or the pub. But as he got a bit closer, he thought, I better go and look through the window and check, in case I have to let security know. So he's turned his machine off. As he's gone towards the door, the man has just walked straight through the door and through himself. And he stopped at the machine, he just disappeared. So of course, he'd just heard all these ghost stories that had been going on. And he's panicked and just run. He said, I've run for about 20 minutes because I couldn't find a door to get out of. But he never came back to work. That was it, he quit the job. Quite a few people have quit their jobs up here. Okay, so there's a ghost story in...
Right, you've done a few stories outside Boots. Well, I've only just done the one. We're going out by the traffic lights now. Outside, so I hope it's not raining. So it's lovely and warm here in the Kingfisher. Yeah, so you've got Phone Tech over there, Whisper, there's a few shops I've never heard of, Jeff Baines. Yeah, so that's the Kingfisher Centre at night. Yeah, so it's not raining, but I've got my umbrella on standby. We've got the bells ringing at the church tonight.
Yeah, classic McDonald's. It's a pub. Well, in Victorian times, it was a hotel called the Unicorn Hotel, and it was the biggest and poshest place in Redditch. And it got knocked down and rebuilt, and it finally closed in the 90s. When it closed, it was you wouldn't want to go in there. We're in a very nice place. Being polite. So when it was the pub in the 90s, just before it closed, there was a man there who he started a cleaning job. So it was 9 o'clock in the morning, he'd have to turn up for work. And his first day, he's cleaning the entrance hall, and the doors opened, and a man and a woman have walked in and gone into the bar. So he's heard the landlord shout, "Get out! We don't serve people this time." He said, "Make sure you keep that door bolted." So he's kicked them out and they've left. Now he said, I struggled to bolt the door. He said, it don't go across properly. He said, well, get the end of your broom and just hit it in. So he's hit the bolt across the door. A few weeks later, he's cleaning in the same area, and he heard the landlord shout again, "I told you to make sure that bolt is on the door." He said, "I'm sick of people coming in." He said, "I've just told them to leave." He's gone into the bar and there's nobody there. It's just the landlord with his back to him, stocking up the shelves and doing things. And apparently it used to happen quite often, but the landlord would never believe it. He used to believe it was somebody actually coming in, and somebody else would get into trouble, letting people in. Right, so just down Bates Hill, down the road, years ago there was a big church, a Methodist church, and it got knocked down and it became Apollo, electrical sales, electrical goods. And in the same area now, it's a pharmacy. Now, over the last 10 years or so, people have reported seeing a World War I soldier just hanging around outside and looking through the window. So there was a man who came on the walk 2 years ago, and when I told him this story, he said, "Our family used to use the Methodist church." He said the only two people who used to go to that church who went into World War I, he said, was my dad and my uncle. He said, and my uncle never returned home. So it sort of upset him a little bit, thinking that was his uncle. His uncle came back. Who knows, it could be. They've had reports as well of seeing what they call a blue nun. Not the wine, but I think because we've got the old Victorian hospital over there, I've got a feeling it's a nurse, a Victorian nurse, that people have seen, but around that same area. Right, so the next lot of stories, if we make our way to the water fountain, just up there. Right, so yeah, the first one will be the hospital, the old hospital.
Is that the old library?
That's the old library, yeah.
Does it say Ella's hospital?
Yeah, it's a shame. Be interesting to see what they do with it. Unfortunately, I mean, they're grade 2 listed, but it's only the fronts.
Right.
You can do anything behind them,
Yeah.
as long as you keep the fronts. When I was in York a few weeks ago, they'd
This is what we want.
rebuilt it. It's a shame, but they had no choice. It was,
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Take photos. That's what
right, so the old Smallwood Hospital just over there. For years and years, I've been trying to get ghost stories for here, and I couldn't get any. And everybody's told me it's really haunted. Nobody's actually given me a story. So I've done a lot of research last year, and I thought, let's see if I can find some ghost stories for this place. Couldn't find one. I sat there for about 5 hours. Then I spoke to my wife, and I said, I'm going to have to give up on that. She said, what? And I said, can't find any ghost stories for Smallwood Hospital. He said, I've got one. Oh. so it was about 18 years ago, it's got to be. And she's took my daughter in there, and they've gone into the main door. There's a staircase to the right. They've gone up the staircase, and they're in a corridor. There's a receptionist sat at a desk in a waiting area. So there's my wife and my daughter. There's another woman and her son. And down the corridor, I can hear somebody walking up the corridor, the footsteps. So of course they're looking, but they're not seeing anybody. And it's getting closer and closer. So all of a sudden, a door handle goes down, and the footsteps have stopped. The door opens up, and then it closes like somebody's just gone in there. So my wife has said, has everybody else just seen that? And they're all going, yeah. And the receptionist said, oh, that happens all the time. So, as I'm out telling these stories last year, I had somebody on the walk who said that she'd worked there for 20 years. And she said she was going to write down all the stories for me, which she hasn't done yet. I'm hoping she does. But she did tell me one on the night. And she said over Christmas time, they used to find it really hard to get extra staff in there, and nobody wanted to do any overtime. And the reason for it is because they didn't like to listen to all the children singing Christmas carols. There were no children in there. They said apparently wherever you went around the hospital, you would hear these children singing. Yeah. The area of the town named after them, Smallwood. They built the almshouses, and they built the almshouses in Ulster as well. The one was quite a famous surgeon. And somebody tried telling me he was Jack the Ripper. But, yeah, we're in Redditch. You know. So it was 2013, and a friend of mine took on this building here, number 5 Church Green, which is now Patenga, which is supposed to be really nice. I haven't been in there myself. So he asked me if I wanted to take on the top floor, because I'm a guitar teacher, and I wanted to open up my own school. So I did it with my friend, who's a drum teacher. We thought, brilliant. So we had to get in there by January. This is December, we took the place on. A couple of weeks before opening up, I've had to get in here and get everything organised as quick as I can, because I've got a lot of equipment. It was a Sunday morning about 8 o'clock, and we'd had a little bit of snow overnight, only about an inch. So the 3 of us came up, myself, the drum teacher and my son. So we went upstairs, took all the equipment up, started setting everything up. And then all of a sudden I heard a voice from a little boy shouting, "Dad, Dad," coming from downstairs. So I've run downstairs and nobody about. So I thought I'll look outside. I thought I might have left a door open or something. Everything was locked up. Looked outside, there's no footprints out the front, and the only footprints in the snow out the back are ours from the car to the door. So about half an hour later it happened again. This time all 3 of us heard it, and we've run down the stairs. And as we got to the bottom, there's a fire door just down there, and it slammed shut like somebody had just gone through it. So I thought, right, I've got you this time. I was right behind them. I've run through, and there's just nobody there at all. So it's a few months later, and we've started work. I used to work in the schools in the daytime. So one afternoon, I finished at the school. I've gone up to my teaching room. I thought I'll organise my lessons. And you know, you get a feeling that somebody's watching you or somebody's behind you or something. Just had that feeling. And I just turned to the door, and there's a little boy just popped his head around the door and then went. So I've gone out there to have a look, and there's nobody there. I've gone downstairs into the cafe part, and I've asked the woman on the counter, and she said nobody had been in. I'm the last person to have come in. Well, that's pretty weird. So anyway, over a bit of time, we kept having little experiences. I only ever saw anything out of the corner of my eye, so I was never really sure if I was seeing anything. I only had that one experience of seeing the little boy. The drum teacher was terrified to go into the waiting room, because that's where he was always seen. So I've got students coming in with their parents, and the parents were actually asking me who the little boy was in the room. Is he waiting for a guitar lesson or a drum lesson? And I'd be like, oh, I'd go out there and there'd be nobody there. And they'd say he's sat in the corner a few minutes ago. He's just not there anymore. The amount of times I used to run up and down the stairs just to see if there's anybody about, just in case. So one of my students, one day, his mum came in, who's quite a well-known medium, and she walked in. Now, at this point, we'd nicknamed the ghost James. Right? So this medium has come in, and she's walked in, and she said, "There's a little boy in here called James. He's about 6 or 7 years old, and he died of TB." Just like that, the top of her head. I went, "That's really weird you just said that." And I explained what had happened. So, yeah, she said, "Let's organise a ghost investigation." So we've got a group of people to come in. We had 14 people who knew nothing about the place. Nobody experienced anything all night. But we took it in turns of sitting in the waiting room. And the idea was you sit in the dark 15, 20 minutes with a piece of paper and a pen. Whatever comes into your mind, or if you experience something, write it down. Then you've got to fold it in half and put it in a box so nobody can see what you've written. So by the end of the night, we've checked the box and see what everybody wrote. And 9 out of 14 people had written things like little boy. Some of them wrote the name James. They put 6 or 7 years old. Someone wrote TB in massive letters, and somebody wrote the name Peter. And I thought, that's really weird that people are doing this. So I thought, I'm going to check the census records of the place. So I looked up the history of all these buildings along here. They were all built in 1885, and they were all houses originally. But that particular building, during the late Victorian period, it became an art studio, and it was a dentist's at one time, and a photography studio, all sorts of things. But I found the top floor, the top 2 floors, it was always housing, always used as housing. And I found a married couple who lived there, and their surname was James on the census. Now the census is done every 10 years, but there was no record of a little boy. But I did think about it afterwards, and I thought he could have been born and died in between the census years, being 6 or 7 years old. But I never found out any information. But I know when I left the building, I felt like I'd left somebody in there. It felt really strange. So my wife used to work in the cafe part, and she's working the counter one night, and she's just about to shut up, and I'd just finished my lessons. And a couple came in, and the bloke asked if he could use the toilet. I said, yeah, carry on, upstairs, to your left. Seconds later, he's come running down the stairs, screaming, much to my humour, because I'm thinking he's seen the little boy. But he didn't. He said, I don't know what's going on up there. He said, but this bloke has just walked out into the doorway of the one room. He said he just stood there. He said he was really tall, big built, wearing like a World War II trench coat. Oh, that's really weird. Anyway, just a couple of days later, I just so happened to be talking to the bloke at the accountants next door. And he was telling me, he said, during the 1950s, when he used to go to school, and he'd have to come past here twice a day, he said, Sergeant so-and-so always used to come out, and he always had this great big trench coat on, which he had when he was in the army. Well, how weird is that?
And I only come at it to the accountants. There's never wore this one. Yeah. They are beautiful buildings, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
Yeah, hi folks. I've been doing a voiceover here. I don't know if it's the ghost, but they cut my audio out on this. This is Aroma Cafe. It's a nice little cafe, and they got it nice at the moment with the Halloween stuff there. Ghost walk's going great, so we'll catch you a bit further along down here. Thanks for joining us.
Goes through Sutton Park. There's actually part of Sutton Park, they've excavated some of it. It goes right up to York. Yeah, it's massive. So I'm working on a project at the moment. It's all the ghost stories surrounding it. Been working on it for about 4 years. There's so much to research. Right, so we've got Webb House, and as you can see, built in 1774. Originally, there was the man who lived here was called Harry Peakman. That's why we got the name Peakman Street just there. And he used to draw all the wires for making the needles. I don't know why I do that, because I don't even know what the process is. I'm imagining it. Perhaps he used to draw them with a pen. I don't know. Well, eventually, I mean, there was a confectioner and a baker on the old Evesham Street where the toilets are around there years ago. And this place came up for sale. I think this would have been the 1880s. And he's come along, he's bought it, and he's turned it into a bakery, you know, opened up his own bakery and confectionery. And his family moved in. He's a few years into the business, and he come down with this really bad illness. It's a disease which I can't remember the name of, where you get terrible headaches, nausea and vertigo. Anyway, his wife's downstairs one day and she heard this terrible bang, and just in that room up there, she found him, he'd shot himself. Just after that, his brother took over the business, and the Webb family, they had this up until about 1989. They had another shop just over there as well, where they sold all pet food and things. So I'd heard these ghost stories that years and years ago, that there's a woman who looks out of the windows up there, and she's wearing a black dress, her hair's in a bun, but she wears a veil, but you can still see. and she always looks angry, and she comes up to the windows. Now, I can't walk past the place without looking up. I've always done it since I was a kid. Anyway, when we had the cafe just up the road, one of the editors at the time for the Standard, he used to come in there, and I was talking to him about the ghost story. And I said to him, I've been trying a little bit of filmmaking, trying to get into it. And he said, what are you filming? I said, well, little ghost stories. You know, it's a bit of fun. And he said, oh, we've got a ghost story in the Standard. I said, oh, no, yeah. And he said, and I told him my story about the woman in the window. He said, no, it's a different one. So I came in and spoke to the reporter who experienced this ghost. Now, on the very top floor, just up there, he was working away at night, writing something up, and he could hear creaking on the landing just outside. So he's opened the door. He said it sounded like somebody walking around. He's opened the door and there's nobody there. So he thought he'd better come downstairs and make sure everything's locked up and the building is actually empty. So he's done that. He's gone back up, done some more work. It was about an hour later. He said, I turned my computer off, opened the door. He said, as I opened the door, he said, this woman just come running across the landing. And he said her arms were outstretched like this, but there was no sound. But she looked really angry and she was shouting. Well, she was shouting at me. He said she got right up to my face, and he said, and I just legged it down the stairs as quick as I possibly could. He said he was absolutely terrified. So I was doing some research on the building, and there's a woman who's descended from the original Webb family who moved in, and she's built a website, and she tells all the history. If you go, I think it's Webb's Redditch type history. If you type that into Google, it'll come up. Anyway, there's pictures on the website of a woman from Victorian times who only ever wore a black dress. Now, it was the original William Webb who bought the place originally. It was his wife. And of course, being Victorian times, like Queen Victoria, she was in constant mourning afterwards. Now, I actually took the time earlier to go on the website, and I've got the photos of her. I just thought it's a really weird coincidence that I've actually found the photos of her there. And she's always wearing black. Yeah.
They're just emptying the NatWest out there. Well, former NatWest. Yeah, I was just talking to one of the young ladies, and she said she's not from Redditch, but I was just saying the hot dog stand used to be there. We all used to have to go in the youth club. We'd go and have a hot dog with onions, and the bus station was next to it, and I'd get the bus back to Asphalt Bank, or sometimes walk back. I think the videos I normally do 30 minutes, and might be a bit longer, but I'll probably have to cut a bit out. Going to give you a swing round of the town. Yeah, some of the original buildings up there. Yeah, so we'll see a bit further along.
Right, so yeah, Palace Theatre, built, not as old as I thought it was. It's built in 1913. So in 2003 they had this massive refit, and the manager at the time asked me if I would arrange a ghost investigation in here. He said it would be the first and last one. So I've organised it, I've got some people involved, and we split up into different groups. So I'm in a group backstage. This is backstage area, and literally you go through that door. It's a corridor with changing rooms to the left, and there's another door at the other end. You go through there, and it's a fire exit with a staircase. So I'm in there for the whole night. Quite boring. Didn't experience anything weird until about 1 o'clock in the morning, and there's this extremely loud bang. So I've run out to the other door where the fire exit is. Open the door, there's nothing there, nobody about. But I put my hand on the handrail, which is quite a thick metal handrail, and it was vibrating. And I thought, well, the bang that we heard was like a clang, like a metal clang. And I thought, for it to be vibrating in that way, you'd have to hit it with a hammer or something hard like that. Anyway, I looked around, there's nobody about, couldn't figure out what it could have been. So I went back in the corridor. This time I stayed by the door, stayed up at that end by the door. And it's about half an hour later, we heard it again. So again, I've opened the door really quick and gone out there. And there's exactly the same thing, it was vibrating. And that's all we experienced all night. Nothing major, could have been anything, who knows. So it was only a few weeks later, my friend who'd been filming, set up cameras everywhere for the whole night, had got a camera filming up that way, towards that door. She's phoned me up anyway, she said, come down to my house, she said, you got to look what I found on the telly. And it's the second time, as I've gone through the door, little boy's come running past me. I couldn't believe it, it lasts about 4 or 5 seconds, just comes running past me. Just before he comes running past, before I've opened the door, it looks like you can see somebody's feet from the light behind, but there's nobody actually there. And I've recently got this footage, found it, because I converted it to digital years ago, because obviously she was using an old camera. I found it out on a disc, put it on my computer, and you can't see anything. You can just about see my silhouette going through the door, and that is it now. I don't know what's wrong. But yeah, I wasn't told any ghost stories about that part of the building, and he's only seen if you're on the stage. It's usually the performers who'll see him. And you can look at one part of the room and he'll be stood up with the dog on a lead. And then they say, as they turn their heads, they can see him again, but this time he's sat down and things like that. He's all over the place, just appears from one place to another. But that's the only story I've heard from the palace. I've got a friend who's done a lot of performances here, and she said that there are loads. But thanks a lot.
Right, yeah.
Well, enjoy.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot. Take care.
Yeah, that was good. So just to say thanks, Clem. You done well. We enjoyed that really. You know, wasn't know what to expect. And anyone, it's not a lot of walking. So even if you've got an electric scooter, you can get around on that. So it's for everybody really. So
well, thanks, Roy. Thanks for coming and filming us. And
yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Yeah. Hello, world. Oh, got my mic back on now. Yeah, that was good. Really enjoyed it. So it's an easy walk, and so if you are in an electric scooter, or even if you're a little bit slow at walking, that would be perfect for you. So he's told a lot of stories, more than me. So I've got my umbrella there. So I haven't filmed everything, so I'm fighting with my umbrella here, trying to grip hold of it. That's it. Yeah, just want to get a bit of light here. Yeah, so he told a lot of stories, but I haven't showed all of them. So I'm going to end this video now. So if you could, using the umbrella, please down there, like and subscribe. And don't have nightmares tonight when you watch this. And let's hope there's peace all around the world. We'll see you on the next video, folks, and please subscribe, it's free to do that. And check out the museum, Redditch, when it opens back up, and the ghost walks. Bye for now, folks, bye.